Welcome to Enviro News, and I'm your host, Zero Waste Cutie, where I bring you the latest news on environmental issues and some positive solutions at the end of the segment. So stay tuned. I'm bringing you the series because environmental issues are usually covered up in big media, and that's because a lot of news outlets actually take money from oil companies and companies that don't want climate change solutions because it hurts their business. And if you don't believe me, we're going to be talking about it in our first story. But first, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to let YouTube know that environmental issues are important to you. Okay, so let's just dive right in. Did you know that only 1.2% of climate change and environmental issues make the headlines of news outlets? 1.2%. And this study was done by climateaccess.org, and that's insane. So The Guardian recently just stopped taking money in advertising form from big oil companies. And this was done in 2020 of January. So they've been funded by oil industry for a long time, and why would you want to bite the hand that feeds you and post stories about climate change or environmental news when that hurts basically the companies that are funding your news outlet? So of course, environmental issues and climate change is being talked about less. I will link all of these news stories below in the description, so check it out after. So if you didn't know, burning fossil fuels is actually one of the main drivers of climate change, and actually 1/3 of emissions comes from this industry. So while most news outlets will highlight this current pandemic as something that's saving the environment or something that has been positive, there's actually a lot going on that isn't being covered in the news stories. My friend Reimagine with Love actually shared this news story with me. So right now there's a lot of tax breaks and billions of dollars in bailout being given out to the fossil fuel industry. Basically, the government in Alberta is suspending environmental reporting until August 2020. So basically, oil sand producers won't have to report how much wastewater they're sending to tailing ponds, and they won't have to talk about their emissions that they're producing. But yeah, this report was done by Chloe Alexander and Anna Stanley from University of Guelph. So thank you for writing this because, well, the story needs to be heard more. So the next story is that recycling centers in Windsor won't be accepting plastic bags in the recycling anymore starting June 1st, and that is because they have no end market buyers. So if you didn't know how material recovery facilities or recycling centers work, is that they make money by selling things that they recycle, and it can be kind of expensive to recycle things. So of course, why would you recycle something that's not making you money that you can't sell? So plastic bags, for example, is a hard one to sell just because not a lot of people are buying them. I know in Niagara region they do take plastic bags, but so just because it has a recycling symbol on them, it doesn't mean that product is recyclable. So just look up your region or your city's recycling rules, and they should have like a list of what's acceptable. Okay, so what can you do? Okay, so I spoke to a few MPPs when I was doing my internship at U of T, and basically they said that when they get just one handwritten letter, that equals like 1,000 voices behind them, or even just a phone call. So they would take into account that one person reached out, and that would equal to like 100 people standing behind them based on the amount of effort they gave to, really drive this issue. And that's really cool. So another thing you can do is you can vote, you can spread awareness online, share this with your friends and family, and yeah, but let's move on to the positive stories that we have for you here. Okay, congratulations, so you've made it to the more positive segment of this episode, where I bring some hope for humanity after a soul-crushing long segment. So let's just dive into it. So the first positive news is that an Australian dive tour operation called the Passions of Paradise have actually started planting little corals in the Great Barrier Reef, and that's awesome because, as you know, the Great Barrier Reef has been in trouble for a very long time, and especially now that there's no tourism going on, I think this is a great way to give back. Okay, so the next story is that the New York City Council actually passed a new legislation. It's made out of 7 bills. The legislation is to fight climate change, and it's called the Climate Mobilization Act. So the main point of this bill is that it actually requires buildings over 25,000 feet to reduce their climate emissions by 40% by 2030. So that's pretty cool, and it even goes further. So by 2050, it requires all buildings over 25,000 square feet to reduce their emissions by 80%, which is awesome because we need to be more strict in our emission reductions because we are running out of time. So yeah, basically this legislation also requires these buildings to grow green roofs on their building, which is cool because that can reduce heat intake, and it also, increases biodiversity and can be a great place to grow food. So what a win. So the last story I have for you today is that the EU has a Green Deal and it's been signed by 10 countries. These include Austria, Denmark, Finland, Italy, Latvia, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, and Sweden. And most recently the French have also signed. Very exciting because we need more policies that focus on sustainability and climate change actions. Okay, so thank you for tuning in to our news segment. It was a joy to have you guys here. And please give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe down below for more. That way YouTube knows that environmental issues are important to you. Also realized I have like a little crumb in the corner of my mouth from the positive news segment, so yeah, I was eating pizza bread and I didn't know that, so I'm keeping it in. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and yeah, if you guys want to submit environmental news stories, please either comment down below the links or you can DM me on Instagram at zerowastecutie. Please follow me there as well. I post often, and yeah, I might include your news story in the next segment. So thank you. Bye.